YouTubers, and welcome to this session where we're going to review the Metrix MTX 3282 digital multimeter, graphical multimeter. So this little beastie is a tad unusual from the normal crop of multimeters, and as I said in the teaser, when I initially saw it, when I was searching for it, I almost overlooked it because when I saw this kind of flip-up multimeter, I thought it was a gimmick. But it's certainly not. I think the flip-up feature has some pros and cons, and we'll address those when we start having a closer look at it. But let's just have a little bit of a talk and introduction to it. There are three basic models in this lineup. There is one below this, there's the MTX 3281, and then there's one above this, the MTX 3283. Now the specs, the major differences are they're all 100,000 count. The 3281 has got less accuracy at 0.3% of DC voltage, as I recall. This is 0.03% and the 83 is 0.02. So there's not much in it between this one and the next one up, hence why I went for this one, because it's a fairly big price jump from this one to the next one. You also do get these in a variety of packages where it's like a COM, they say a COM or not COM, where you get a communications port. And I'm not sure whether, I'm sure they don't exclude this communications port, but I think it's a case of whether they throw the PC cable and software in there. And again, if you're considering one of these, I'd certainly go for one with at least the PC cable and software, because with that included, it's not too much extra on the price, and it certainly saves you from buying it later. You can buy it later and it's actually not too expensive as an addition. The other big plus point which some of these have is Bluetooth, so that you can wirelessly link to them to remotely read the display and to log, and that certainly has quite a few benefits. In industrial environments where you might have a situation where you can't go into a certain area, you need to keep it closed, but you need to do measurements, remote measurements, perfect for that. I can think even me, I could have it sat here monitoring some of my solar power equipment and be sitting inside of my PC and monitoring what's going on. This one doesn't have Bluetooth, but I must say I could be pushed even to get a second one of these with Bluetooth, perhaps in the future. Right, so this again, I made the kind of statement, could this be the best, potentially the best handheld multimeter in the world? Now, it's got a few interesting features and nitpicks that I will point out. I think this flip-up is quite handy. It allows you, it's very stable when it's on a bench, and when it's in the upright position you've got lots of option for varying the angle of the display. It certainly protects everything when it's closed up. It could in some situations in the workplace be difficult to use in that situation where if you're standing high up and it can only go that far back, you can't, it's not flat, you can't read the display. There's a question about its vulnerability if it fell down like that, and the strength of the hinge. The hinge strength I think I can certainly vouch for. It really has a nice hinge. It's a nice action. I'm not worried about it wearing out under normal use. However, if it were opened and dropped that way, I think you could have a problem. It could crack the hinge and that could be the end of it. In its closed form, if it was dropped, it doesn't state any stats for dropping, but I think it'd be fairly safe, and obviously it keeps it safe in a bag or what have you. It is IP51 rated, so basic dust proofness, and certainly if we've got a little light sprinkling of spray on it, it'll be okay, but certainly not submersible in any way. Nice quality feel, plus it's got a DC jack, and this model, the one up, comes with rechargeable batteries with a wall wart with it. I know I'm kind of talking on, but I'm just trying to place this for you before we get into the review. Would you buy this as just your normal everyday multimeter? You might find it frustrating for a certain few aspects. I'd call it a specialized multimeter that could be used as a daily multimeter. Just like the Fluke 287 and 289, it's got a dot matrix display, which in some cases certainly isn't as nice and clear and fast as a 7-segment display. Also, what I noticed is one of my nitpicks on this is that when it refreshes the digit, it refreshes the whole display, and you actually see a slight flash, and you'll see that when we start taking measurements, and that I think is irritating. That is something they ought to correct. Even though the Fluke 287 is a dot matrix display, it actually changes the individual digits nice individually without updating what seems to be the whole display. And in essence, this is a little computer, and that's the problem, is that with meters like this, when you switch them on, they don't just switch on and you're there. In essence, they boot up. And the 287 is the same. You're not going to just switch it on and suddenly you're ready to take. There's a little delay before you can take a reading. And that could be frustrating for someone in the workplace who just wants their meter on and off. I think this has a place as a specialized meter for data logging and its accuracy and resolution and what have you. I think it's a winner. And when you consider its price, as I say, that it costs the same as an Agilent U1272A, and it comes with, at that price, mine came with the cable and software and my Agilent didn't, then to me, for my uses, it's a winner. Anyway, let's have a closer look under the camera and test it. Okay, so let's have a closer look. Now, for the rest of the review, I'll actually have to sit the camera on a tripod and not do it above you, because obviously you're not easily going to be able to see the multimeter, the display obviously. But let's have a closer look. Obviously the unusual feature again is that it's got this keyboard as a selector, and the logic behind that is that it's great for single-handed operation, and obviously it's not something that's going to wear out. The keys are plastic and raised, and they've actually got a very good feel, very easy to use, so certainly no problems there. The display, we'll have a closer look when I've actually got it, when we're doing testing on it, but I'll just power it up quickly. So there you can go. As you can see, that's the boot I'm talking about, and there you go, that's the display. And in fact, there you can probably notice it as the digits change, but we will see it more when we test. It tends to almost do an update across the whole screen. And there we shut down. The hinge, just a closer look at the hinge arrangement, and I must say it feels really nice and solid. I mean, you certainly don't worry flapping it down. These are kind of rubber buffers around the side. Nice, I must say it's got a nice smooth profile. It's got just the 3 inputs, which also auto detect if you put the cables into the current banana receiver. It will automatically select current, and likewise if you put in voltage, it'll go to voltage. So it automatically detects where you put the cables in, and if you happen to have everything in volts and select on the selector current, it'll start bleating at you and warn you. That's obviously the optical cable connector at the back. Then just looking at the back, we can see that it's obviously fused. This thing can handle 20 amps for a certain period, and again it's full auto ranging for the current because you only have the one current insert, which is brilliant. It is 1000 volt Cat 3 rated and 600 volt Cat 4. It does also have a CE certification, and it is made in France. So it's not something out of the East, and it certainly seems to be well made. Now what I'm going to do while I've got it in this position, I'm actually going to open it up to show you the access to the inside, to also give you a feel of how easy it is to get inside to the batteries and the fuses. Before we do that, what it comes with, I said it comes with the software, a cable, a PC cable and the power adapter to plug it in. And it also comes with these cables. Now these are also, it says these are Cat 4000 volt cables. It says got a 15 amp rating on there. They're silicone, so again, you're getting really good quality cables for the price. They're these slip-off ones, the same type that actually came with my Agilent. Very nice, lovely long leads, nice, easy, nice feeling leads. The flex point here looks okay. This is a different arrangement to the flukes, and this arrangement, I'd wonder that over time this kind of flex guard might kind of shear. I don't know, I'm just guessing, but it looks vulnerable that way. But at least it has got a flex guard and they feel good. The inserts into the multimeter aren't set at a 90-degree angle as normal multimeters, because obviously they go into the back. The one thing to note, they've got this shielding on them to make them safer, so there's only a small part of the tip protruding. The tips are nice and sharp, but I suppose my one complaint is there that if you want a bigger tip to do work with, these aren't removable. This is how they come. If you wanted that, you'd probably have to get another set of leads to look at, to work with. Right, so let us open up the back while we're in this camera mode and have a look what's inside. So, nice and easy, just that one single screw. It looks like a stainless steel screw, to tell you the truth. It has got a receiver and a retainer for the screw, so that you can't lose the screw. And you can see it just easily flips back. And then it's got these kind of, they're actually silicone seals around the batteries, as you can see. There's your, it's rated as an 11 amp fuse, it's got in there, and even that's got a seal to keep the environmentals out. And you can see the plug points at the back here. There's the silicone seal, basically. So once the case is over here, your major entries into the multimeter have at least got some sealing for it. Obviously it's IP51 rating. So a nice easy way to get to the fuse and the batteries. All feels actually nice and solid. It's a real nice arrangement. Okay, so I've got everything set up here as a comparison for this shot. I do have my voltage reference, which is, the reference is 0.2499 volts. So I've set these all to millivolts. Now, obviously on these meters, you actually have to go and select millivolts, whereas on the Metrix, it's auto-ranging both through its voltage range and its current range. So if we have a look at these, the fluke is certainly a little bit out, the Bryman is a little bit out, and obviously that's a 500,000 count, so just for fun I'll throw up its extra digit. And the Metrix is certainly very close, but it has to be said the Agilent is certainly probably the closest out of all of these. Now I just want to show, while I'm in the shot, another quite handy feature that the Metrix has. If you're being very specific about the range or your tolerance level on your reading, it's got a spec button. And if you push that spec button, you can actually see what it's pulled up there, and I'll zoom in a little closer to show you. It's pulled in the percentage at this point. Its accuracy is 0.05% plus or minus 8 digits is what it's showing, and then it's indicating the possible maximum and minimum of the range in comparison to the reading you've got. So if you really need to make sure that you're within a certain range and account for inaccuracy of the multimeter, it'll at least display that range for you, which is quite a handy feature. Okay, so let's go up through the voltage range then. So I'm going to step up to 1.5 volts. And as you can see, everything else goes over limits. So I have to go and switch it back to their volt setting. and this is 1.5 volts exactly, so 1.5000. Let's just put that back. And the Agilent certainly is doing a good job there. It is showing that measurement on the nose. The Fluke is slightly out, but the Metrix certainly is not far off. These are certainly all well within their quoted spec, but it's just nice to see how close they get down to that reference. And certainly no complaints there, and hats off to the Agilent for being spot on. Let's go up to the 5 volt reference. Now here, so this is where things get interesting. The Agilent is a 30,000 count, so it obviously drops a place here. The Fluke is a 50,000 count, so it still retains its 4 decimal places, and obviously so does the Metrix. The Metrix, as you can see, is just 4 or so counts off over there, and it's the Bryman is actually out by quite a few at that point. The Agilent obviously is out by quite a few because it can only go down that much, but anyway. This is 7.7500, and again at this point, the Metrix is actually the most accurate reading out of all of these. Let's go up to 9.9500. And again, the Metrix there is the most accurate according to my reference. Okay, so let's go now to current and resistance. Okay, so as we go to measure current, the one feature I thought I'd actually just demonstrate to you is obviously at the moment at the back I've got the leads plugged in to measure voltage, and as you can see it's on the millivolt scale. And if I unplug it and plug it into gives a lead warning, and there it switches over to current, so it does it automatically. You can obviously, and if I did push voltage selector on here, you can hear it bleats a warning and says leads. So you just go back to current. Right. So I've got my reference here. I'm just going to angle it so it's a little bit easier for me. This is a 1 milliamp reference. And there you go. And I've done this comparison with my other meters, and none of my other meters actually go down to 4 decimal places. Even my Bryman doesn't go down there. So to be 1 place out on 4 decimal places is absolutely brilliant. So certainly no complaints there. Okay, just to show you, I have actually clipped, I use these leads when I do resistance because it's easier with the reference I've got. I've clipped them together just so we can I can delta out the any resistance in the leads themselves. So I push the relative button. So just to show there, so the reading we're going to be looking at now is this middle one, and that's at 0. Okay, so our reference here is a 10K resistor, which is actually measuring 999.3, and if we have a look at our middle measurement there, it's actually only out by 1 count. 1 count on that measurement. Okay, now we're on our 10K. I previously said, I should have said 1K. Now we're on our 10K measurement, and the reference there is 9.997, and we're on 9.997 exactly. We're now on our 100K reference, and the actual reference as measured by voltage standards was 99.95, and as you can see it is showing exactly 99.95. Right, so now I have it connected up to my variable power supply, and there's a few things I'm going to point out here. For one, again, I must say, on the desk it's obviously one of the most stable multimeters you can have in this configuration. Obviously lots of flexibility with where to put the display so that you can see it clearly. Now the other thing what you can do on the keyboard here is you can actually change the input impedance as well. There's a little eye down here for information, so often when you're in a certain function it'll actually scroll a message across here to give you some information about the setting you want. So here you can, I've just gone down with the impedance, but that impedance you can go up to a 20 mega ohm impedance, but that's for millivolts. If we go up to 10.5 as is displayed here, you get 4 places after your decimal. If you go up to 10 mega ohm, you then drop down to 3. So I'm going to pop down to the 10.5 so we get our full reading on the screen. But yeah, so at least you've got some flexibility with changing the input. So the thing to note here, this front piece, and I'll bring you in a little closer now. On the screen now, you can clearly see you've got basically a 60-second graphical graph showing you your reading and what's happening. Obviously your main reading is up here, and on the side is your bar graph. So I'm going to just vary the voltage up and down a bit so you can actually see how you get a real-time graphic representation of what's happening with your reading, which is brilliant. I mean, that's a feature that I was really looking for. As you can see, that's the zero line it goes down to, and obviously if you could go negative, it would then go down below that line. So, a few things to point out. As I'm changing the voltage, and I'll go up through the ranges just in a moment, just notice the digits and the speed that they change at and the flicker. So that was something I was pointing out. Now, I must say it is a bit annoying to me, but for all the features that I enjoy out of this multimeter, the few annoyances I can live with. But it has to be said, that could have been a little bit better. You can see as it's jittering it down on those last digits, I don't know, but I can see with my eye, you can see the whole display actually does a flash because it updates the whole display rather than just the digit. So that they could have certainly implemented better. But I must say, this, for the projects which I'll be working on, I say like the project with powering my solar powered kitchen clock, this is exactly what I wanted. Now, the bar graph, so we're going to go up through the range. It then goes up, it's going to, I've got it in because I was meddling with the impedance, it's gone to a manual range. I'm just going to set it back to auto. So as I go up, now that's the one thing to note. You can see it takes a brief moment while it auto ranges. So that auto ranging, I must say, also is perhaps a little slower than most. And I'm going to come back down because now the granularity on the bar graph is not that great. And what I wanted to show, that bar graph, it is functional, but it certainly isn't as fast as I would like it to be, to show that you've got a fluctuating voltage. It should update several times faster than the display, and I think with all the rewrites it actually slows down that little bar graph on the right hand side there. But anyway, so let's go up. So here, because we've gone over 10 volts now, we drop down to 3 decimal places. Okay, so as I said, at any point when you've got a reading, you can always push a spec button and it'll actually show you. So here we're down to 0.03% plus or minus 8 digits, and it'll show your potential minimum and maximum around your reading that you're taking. And in this mode you get your bar graph going that way. So let's just see. Down in this mode, just to give you a better idea, that bar graph. So it's still not as fast as I'd like it to be. You then also got, it's got what it calls survey mode, which is your min-max average. So it gives you, it obviously keeps track of your readings. It also auto ranges in this mode, which is really handy because some multimeters don't do that. And then what you can do, if you hold it down for 2 seconds, it'll actually give you the date and time stamp information for when those have occurred, as it doesn't display those on the live screen. But you can see it's still running, so it would still be recording in the background. You can still go back to your live recording and see what's going on, but anytime you come along, you just hold that down for 2 seconds and you get that additional information. Okay, so you might have seen a snippet of this in when I was showing the kind of follow-up on the UT90C, but I'll just show it in perhaps a little more detail. I've got a hybrid capacitor here which I had been monitoring over a couple of days and logging the results to this. Now this can take 6,500 data points for measurement. You can have 10 individual storage points overall. So if you reduce your data logging period to 60 seconds, you can obviously take a measurement each second, but if you reduce it to 60 seconds, that's about just over 4 days, close to 5 days of data logging you can do on this. And of course, with the power plugged in, you've got no worries in terms of your battery life, and it will recharge the batteries in this as well. So now we all going to have a look at the menu system. And of course, a lot of people don't like menu systems on multimeters. I totally respect that, but for me, if I want a specialist multimeter with these kinds of features, you're not really going to get away from it. But it's a friendly, very friendly menu system. And you can set things up here, and I'll just show you the logging. So function memory. Consult is where you view your logs. You can obviously go and erase logs. You can erase all. You can set a rate. So okay, so I've got it set to 1 minute at the moment. I'm actually going to change that for this. I'm going to set it down to 1 second. The number of records, I've got it set to the maximum of 65. You could set a limit, and then it'll obviously stop once you reach that number of records, and it'll auto power off after that point as well, which is quite handy. So we just leave it there. The backlight is also very nice and very handy, and of course if you've got DC plugged in, then you can have it on all the time without worrying. Okay, so we've gone and set our parameters for the logging, which was straightforward. I then just simply push the menu button to come back out. Within monitoring this supercapacitor, all I do, and I'll bring you out a little bit just to demonstrate this, is there is on the keyboard here, there is a mem button. So all I do is I simply press that once, and you can see it's now said right, it's actually doing the recording. And if I bring you in, you can see on the bottom of the screen there, it's ticking away saying memorying it's recording and the number of records it's recording, because it's recorded 1 each second. Now, as I highlighted again when I did the little teaser on this, the one thing, the graphical display only ever shows 60 seconds on the screen. So I thought, oh, that's a bit of an issue. If I'm doing long-term logging and I want to see the recording, that means I'm kind of down to the same situation as the Fluke 287. You kind of have to stop the recording and then go and look at your trend or your plot. But no, this has a trick up its sleeve. It can multitask. So while it's recording here, I can go into the menu system, memory function. I can go up to consult, and then in consult you simply go in there, and these are records from previous recording sessions. There's today the 19th, the one I've just started, and what it shows you the number of values it's already accumulated, the interval you set for, which is 1 second, and the parameter you're measuring, which is voltage. And then you just go into that, and there we go. So that is a super zoom view, and you've got a cursor where you can go and go across and look at your readings. At the bottom of the display you can actually see, as I cursor along, it shows the time over there. You can see each second. It shows you the value for your cursor, the minimum value and the maximum value that it's recorded in that session. And obviously where your cursor is, you see the value at the top of the screen. So as I move across, as you can see, there's nothing much happening on the supercapacitor. I'll show you another recording now, but so you can go in, view the recording, go back, and your live recording is still happening. You haven't affected what's happening. So real time, you can go and check your recordings. Now I'm going to stop that and take you into another one just to show you the features of. So you hold it down for 2 seconds and it throws up the help at the bottom. We go into consult. I'm going to go to another recording where I've got quite a few values. Here we go. So here's one that I took over an extended period, 10 seconds. I got 2059. Of course, all this can be downloaded to your PC, and the software is actually really good software. They haven't skimped on the software. Okay, so what it's showing here, the top view is your kind of interactive view where you can move your cursor along and see your values. And at the bottom is actually the full recording period, and this blacked out period is the zoomed in part that we're looking at on the top screen here. So in essence it's a zoomed view. If you wanted to see your whole view, the whole period at once, then what you do, you simply go across that zoom feature and extend the range with the cursor to what you want to see. So there we go, I've extended so that I can see the recording for the entire period. And then I just switch back to the interactive mode where I can move the cursor. And then I can move this cursor and you can actually take note of the reading values and obviously the time occurred. It also obviously tells you what reading number it was out of the total number. And I say this is downloadable, and on the PC side of it, you really get quite a few options to view and play with this. Okay, so here I'm measuring the AC voltage. It's got a little bleat because it's warning you that you are taking a measurement that's potentially dangerous. I'm now going to flick across to Hertz, and of course the beauty here is you're not flicking through a selector switch, so you're not flicking past something which is dangerous, you're just pushing buttons. So let's flick to Hertz, and my goodness, it can do something that the Uni T90C can't do. But hopefully most multimeters can. So there you go, it measures the Hertz alright, and of course I'm sure someone would love me to push resistance and see if it's going to work. Should I do it? Okay, I've pushed resistance. I'm going to go back to voltage. Have I dinged it? Don't believe it. Okay, let's see if it's going to come back. Okay, so it has come back. So it certainly didn't like the switching on to resistance, but it has come back. But what I'm going to do now, obviously, is I'm going to do a measurement of a resistance value to see if it measures that okay. This is the 1K resistor, and yeah, I haven't gone and delted it obviously, but it's still operational. Okay, so it took that beating and came back, thankfully, or else I might have had tears in my eyes. Okay, while we're here, let me show you the continuity, because that is another point where it's in essence falls over. So you can tell by the scratchiness it's not latched, and it's not fast either. So it gets no prizes for its continuity tester. They could certainly do better there. Now again, I'm the wrong person to me this isn't a problem, because this isn't the kind of multimeter that I'd use for continuity testing. Obviously you can do continuity testing, but it is certainly not latched, and it's not fast either. Some people may be very critical of that, and that's fair enough, but for me, for the functionality that I want out of this multimeter, that isn't an issue. It would be nice if it was better, but not an issue for me. Okay, so the other really neat feature about this, which is what I really like, is that it does have two channels for measuring both current and voltage at the same time. The rule there is, which I'm not sticking to because of just the cables I've got, you need your common needs to be short and thick so that you kind of mitigate any losses on the voltage side. I'm running this 12 volt light from my power supply, and on the display you'll see the voltage and the current in milliamps. It's also got a math function. Now at the moment the math function you can set up for what you want. It's only set to show the voltage. That's the milliamps, which is negative because obviously the current is coming in through the common, and in essence it's showing you your power drain of your power source. And there you can see V times A, which is in watts, minus 7.5 watts. So that is the really neat feature about this multimeter that I enjoy. And this obviously you can log as well, and it will record all the parameters, which you can obviously either view on the screen or you can download to PC. Okay, this does have an auto hold feature as well, which I've just turned on now. It's kind of got you can switch through a kind of no hold, which is obviously normal. If you switch just to hold the value, the display where it is, and then you've got auto hold. Now the auto hold on this is a little unusual from, let's say, the Fluke touch hold. I've got some probes here which I'm measuring my variable power supply, and as I touch them, when it gets a stable reading it does that double bleat and then it holds the value, but while you've got the probes on there, and then when you release it comes off. So I'll just show that again. So once it's got a stable reading it then gives it to you while you've got the probes on, but as soon as you come off it then loses it. I think it would be nice to have a feature where it kind of retains the value when you come off so you can see it, say if you're not in sight of the multimeter. But there you go. It has got loads of features that I haven't gone through, but just a quick of the kind of normal ones. It does have temperature as well. You can stick a probe in. I think you can configure it for different types of probe types. It obviously does capacitance as well, and it's got a smiley face on the keyboard which you can set to a particular math function, so you can have that as well. Okay, I wish you'd seen my face when I switched that setting to ohms when I was in the mains, and I thought I'd ding this thing, because this isn't on loan to me. I've paid for it out of my own money. So I would have been a sad man had I killed it and I didn't have a claim back on the manufacturer or the supplier. But anyway, it survived. It looked as though it just needed a shutdown and restart, and obviously the resistance measurements were 100% after the fact. Now I must say, this multimeter is one of the first ones I actually struggled to be more objective about, because I have really fallen for it in terms of its functionality and what it can do. It obviously does have its faults, and I have tried to be honest in pointing those out. The key ones are the update and the way it updates the display. Its continuity tester is not great. I've forgotten what else now. But for the money, I don't know if you, for instance, I was keen to get a Gossin, and this is, I remember watching the review that Dave Jones did on the Gossin, the power, I forget the actual name, it can also measure power. The great thing about the Gossins are also, they've also got 3 inputs, which I really like, you know, not having to change between inputs when you're taking a current measurement. It means that risk of blowing a fuse accidentally is taken away from you. Also, having the voltage auto range through the whole range is just something, a feature I love. That it can measure power. Again, so those are things that the Gossin can do. I don't know if the Gossin auto ranges the voltage, but it certainly does the current, and that one model can measure the power. But it's only a 12,000 count, as I recall, whereas this is a 100,000 count. Plus this has got that graphical, real-time graphical display. Plus you can go and view your logs while it's still logging. As I said, you can use it on a process control network. You can input your own units in here, and it'll decipher the millivolts or the milliamp reading and give you a reading in either temperature, pressure, or mass, or what have you. So I really love this multimeter. It's difficult to hide because I'm going to love the functionality that it has already, just the logging capability to be able to see things and what have you. So anyway, I hope you've gained some value out of seeing this rather different multimeter. Please do post questions if I have perhaps made an error anywhere along the way that needs revisiting, or there's some functionality. I'll put, as I say, in the notes, I will put a PDF to it. I'll try and get a full user manual as well, if I can find one online, that you can view. And then if you've got further queries about its ability or disabilities, then shout, and I'll certainly try and investigate those for you, and if necessary post another video with more detail. Yeah, I just love it. I really do. So thanks very much for watching. I will, in my next video, I said I would pose a question. Well, let me just actually pose it now. The one thing I was thinking is perhaps lacking on the internet, which would be great, is the ultimate buyer's guide and multimeter review. And by that what I mean is having a guide, a video blog guide, which can guide consumers and buyers to a group of multimeters. If you're starting out and you want, we could classify multimeters as like beginners, entry-level, hobbyist, industrial use, specialist use. We could define, so what I was thinking of was actually bringing in Dave Jones, defining those categories which you'd like to do, sum up multimeters. So give an initial video with an overall view where you could place yourself and say, I'm in this category, I'm a hobbyist doing electronics, and I'm going to be in this group of multimeters. We then have separate videos for each of those categories, and in those videos we could then go through the respective multimeters and say their pros, cons, their counts and what have you. But a more detailed review can be, then we can annotate back to our original reviews. Dave Jones has got a whole lot, and he's got far more experience, has probably touched far more multimeters than I have. So I'll see if he's got the time. He's a busy man, I'm also a busy man. If you're keen for that idea though, give me some feedback. If there isn't that much enthusiasm for it, then there's pointless doing that. But if there is enthusiasm for doing that, then I'll certainly drop Dave a note and see if he's keen to do it, and if he is, if he's got the time. Anyway, thanks very much for watching this review. Please do rate the videos. As I said, it does progress what I do. If you are interested in purchasing these and you want to again support what I'm doing, I do have them on my Amazon store, and I'll have a direct link to them down in the details below this video. Yeah, for the price, it's a difficult one to beat because I don't know any other multimeter of this type which has this functionality, accuracy, resolution for this price range. And if you do find something, please bring it to my attention because I'll go and get it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.